All right, we're excited to be joined now by Dane Brugler from The Athletic, the producer. What do you call it? Like, I don't know.
Author,
it's not just an author. It's more than that, of The Beast, which we all wait for every year. And we're also grateful for all the hard work you put in. I got to start off with the question I'm sure you get. Just what is your process like over the course of the year, putting that The Beast together?
Well, it takes the full year, and even more so than that, because inevitably you pick up different tidbits for the future class. And so, it's a process. And, at my heart, I'm a draft fan, so I want to make something that I would want to read and consume and really enjoy. And so no detail is too small. I'm a big believer in, to know where these guys are headed, you need to know where they came from. And so understand their journey. Understand everything that got them to this point, the doorstep of the NFL, and that helps you understand them as people. Then, of course, the analysis part, just making sure you're studying the tape, talking to scouts, talking to teams, understanding what they do well, what will translate, what won't translate. So certainly a process, and we're down to this last month, which gives me anxiety to think about. But excited to share it with everybody here early April.
Yeah, we're excited to get it for sure. Just from a Patriots perspective, 4th overall, I think we're all kind of in the same position where we're, maybe Hunter or Carter were to fall, probably not. Does Will Campbell make sense there? Is there someone else? Is there a trade down? I mean, it's last year it was so straightforward with quarterback at 3. Now it seems a little bit more uncertainty. What are your thoughts on the Patriots' position at 4th overall?
Well, yeah, and I think there's a very good chance that Cam Ward's the number 1 pick. I think if where we are right now, with what we know right now, I think he's the favorite to be that number 1 pick. Now, to who, it could be the Titans, could be the Giants, could be another team. And then after that, it gets interesting. I think the Browns want out of there. I think they'd love to trade back. Do they have a trade partner? Who knows? But I would agree with you that the chances of Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter falling to 4 are probably not great. They're probably not high. And then, okay, what direction do you pivot? Say you can't trade back. Say you're stuck at 4. Is there an offensive lineman you love enough to take at 4? Whether that's Will Campbell from LSU. Could you take Armand Membu from Missouri that early? Which of these offensive linemen do you like the best? And then besides the offensive line, is there someone else? Could it be a T-Mac from Arizona, who unfortunately is not going to be working out here this week? But could it be another one of those players that you feel like, all right, we drop him into our on our team, and he's going to make the biggest impact for us? We can get caught up too much in need, and of course they need more help at receiver. Of course they'll need more help on the offensive line. When you're drafting top 5, you can't think like that. You have to think about, for the next 4 or 5 years, who's going to make the greatest impact. And that could be a pass rusher. That could be somebody else on the defensive line. So for the Patriots, you got to list your top 4 players in this draft who are going to impact your roster for the next 5 years. You're guaranteed to get one of those guys, and it'll be interesting.
I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned T-Mac's not going to work out. It seems like that's pretty prevalent right now, especially with the top guys in this draft. Do you feel like it's more than it's been in the past? And what are teams saying about the future of this event in terms of the athletic testing?
Yeah, I was talking with a scout yesterday about this, and he seemed very confident that, because there's a lot of players that do want to work out. There's a lot of players that look at this as an opportunity to just go show out and show what they can do, because there's the peak athletes. The top guys at each position, I think, feel like they have a little bit of leverage where I can only hurt myself. An Ashton Genty, T-Mac. If T-Mac goes out there and runs a 4.55, is he hurting himself at that point? But there's different ways to think about it, because what happens when you go to your pro day and you have a stomach bug that morning? What happens when maybe you don't have your best day, you stumble, whatever. Like, you're putting all your eggs in that basket. And this is a fast track here in Indy. So the chance to go out there and, even if it's not the greatest time, hey, just cross it off, check the box, move on. And, for the most part, teams aren't going to adjust their rankings based off of the littlest changes in your 40-yard dash. If you like T-Mac, you've seen him, so he's not going to run a 4.3. He's probably a 4.52 athlete, and that's fine. T. Higgins was a 4.59 athlete in his 40-yard dash.
Right.
So it's more about focusing on the strengths, what they do well, and why you love T-Mac as a receiver. It's not necessarily the speed. It's his ability to be a ball winner. It's the flexibility and the fluidity that he has in and out of his breaks, at the catch point. Nobody over the last 2 years in college football has more catches of 20-plus yards than T-Mac. And so he's a guy that's super talented, The production is there. I think he's a top 10 pick in this class. When you just focus on the players available this year, would the Patriots take him as early as 4? I think he at least should be in the conversation.
Before we get a little bit deeper, I did want to ask you about Mason Graham. And yesterday he weighs in. He's only about 296 pounds, which checks out a little bit better than the 320 I think that they had at Michigan. But I heard you on the radio in Boston, I think it was on the Sports Hub in Boston, saying he's not necessarily a Quinnen Williams level prospect, but he's really good. And where do you kind of fall on Mason Graham, and do you still see him going as early as 4 after the weigh-ins and stuff?
Yeah, I think the combine's not made for a guy like Mason Graham, because he doesn't have the ideal body type. His arms are a little bit shorter. He's not working out, which I think he would have been fine. I don't think he would have, blown it up at all. He's a guy that you watch the tape and you're like, all right, good football player. But is he a Quinnen Williams ascend, or type of guy that's going to turn your defensive line from good to great? That's where, I think there's a little bit of a question mark. And ideally, if you're picking a defensive tackle top 5, that's who you want.
Right.
But you know what? You can't force something that's not there. And in this class, Mason Graham is one of the best, 7 players in the draft. And so even though he might not be a Quinnen Williams type of impact prospect, he's still a good player. I mean, you watch the film, and I don't know how you could come away from watching his film and say, he's okay. Like, he consistently disrupts, and you see that with the block deconstruction, former wrestler. You see the leverage. He's a leverage monster. I mean, it's the only way to describe him. So he can win with quickness, win with power. There's just a lot to like about the way he plays when he suits up on game day.
This week there'll be risers, fallers. We'll kind of regroup after this. As we get to the Patriots' second-round pick down there, do you feel like where's the value going to be? What positions do you have a sense of what might get kind of pushed down as maybe certain guys come up, certain guys fall? I know it's hard to say right at this point, but I think that's what we're looking at with that in the second pick.
Right. I think defensive line, because it's a deep defensive line group, and not all of them are going to go in the first round, so there will be plenty of guys, like an Alfred Collins from Texas, who didn't have a great vertical, but you know what? You watch the film, and he's just consistently disruptive. He's 6'5", 335 pounds, really long. So a guy like that who maybe doesn't go in the first, but he's going to be there in the second. I think there's a couple of those defensive linemen that will be there where you could really bolster your depth and get a good player in the second round. Receiver's tough because, let's just say the Patriots go defensive line in the first. What receivers are going to be there for you in the early second round? Usually we're spoiled with too many receivers every year. This year is a little bit of the opposite. Let's say 4 receivers go first round. Let's say it's T-Mac, it's Golden, it's Buka, and Travis Hunter, and Burden, Luther Burden. Is there somebody else that you love in this class? Jalen Royals, Jaden Higgins. I love Jalen Noel, but are any of those guys worth the pick in the early second round? That's something that I think the Patriots might struggle with, finding a guy that you could say they struggled with it last year at the top of the second round, finding a guy that you'll point to and say, oh yeah, this is the guy we need for our offense.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the receiver position a little bit. I think we're all kind of expecting trenches early from the Patriots. That's what all of their decision makers have been telling us for a couple months now. So assuming, let's say they go offensive line, defensive line with their first 2 picks, is there any third, fourth round receivers that you see as fits?
I think Jack Bash would fit with. He seems like a Mike Vrabel guy. The toughness, the physicality, the way he plays, the mindset. I think Jack Bash would be a really good fit. I mentioned Jalen Noel. I think he's going to run really well here. He's not the biggest guy. He's 5'9.5", under 200 pounds. But he can win vertically. He can win on quick hitters and then be a threat after the catch. I'm a big fan of Noel and what he brings. And if he were to make it to the third round, I would love that fit. Even though, again, doesn't have the size, but he can still get open and make plays. Elik Eomanor from Stanford, he's interesting. He's still relatively new to football, still learning in a lot of ways, but he's built well. He has talent. eager to see what he runs, because on tape he looks more like a 4.5 guy. But you know what? If he were able to get into 4.4s, that might change the thinking with him about, okay, is he a late third rounder? Maybe take him early third round. But there's a lot to like with A.O. Minor when you get to after the first 2 rounds.
He had that great game against Travis Hunter a couple years ago, and that's one of the best wide receiver tapes I've seen out of any of these guys in this class.
And you saw it all in there. You saw speed, you saw physicality. He was at the podium and was actually talking about that.
You're getting put on the spot.
It's for you.
No.
Thank you. Come back in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, I've already had some.
Yeah, I've had enough.
Thank you.
Though.
The timing of that was impeccable.
As always, they got us last year live. And we horked them down, but we'll keep it just to the beast at this point. Just any other players that stand out to you, personal favorites, guys that you just really enjoy kind of watching this offseason?
Well, Carson Schwessinger, the linebacker from UCLA, is one of my favorites. It's just speed and instincts. You know, if that sounds okay for you in a linebacker, you're going to like Carson Schwessinger. And maybe just recency bias, because in the stadium last night watching those guys work out, it was fun to see Shamar Stewart work. That guy is the freak of all the freaks. The rumor they're going to name the combine after him after what he did yesterday. I mean, 1.58 10-yard split at that size is ridiculous. Von Miller's 10-yard split was 1.59. So just a context of how that burst and that elite get-off, and you saw that at the Senior Bowl, saw that on tape. And all the talk's going to be about 1.5 sacks. I get it. But when you watch the tape, you see a more productive player because he's able to make the quarterback move his feet, be disruptive. And, do you want him to get sacks? Of course. But if you're being disruptive and you're affecting the backfield action, then you're doing your job as a pass rusher. And so Shamar Stewart does that consistently, and that's why I think when it's all said and done, he's going to be somewhere in those top 15 picks. It's just a matter of, how high does he go?
I want to ask you one last one, and then we'll let you go. Tight end. I feel like in this class, we talked a lot about wide receiver and how it's not as great of a class. How much, how much are people talking about, well, maybe we should just take Tyler Warren instead of, drafting a receiver in the top 10?
Sure.
And 2, who are some of those day 2, day 3 tight ends that you like?
Yeah, and you could make a case, say there's only 12, 13 first-round grades in this class. You could make a case that, Warren's one of them. You make a case Colston Loveland from Michigan's one of them. Again, it should come down to who's going to impact your offense the most. And if you come away thinking that it could be Tyler Warren, then, hey, you owe it to yourselves to at least consider that possibility, even though a tight end that early definitely feels rich. But this is a unique draft class, very unique. And it's ironic, last year was so deep, and a guy like Brock Bowers, who was a top 5 talent in that class, falls all the way to 13. But this year, it's just not as deep. And a guy like Tyler Warren, who, and Colston Loveland, they're not quite Brock Bowers, but they still can impact the game. One of the reasons not to take a tight end early is because it is deep. Mason Arroyo, or Mason Taylor, Elijah Arroyo, big fan of Gunnar Helm from Texas. I think all those 3 guys are all starters in the NFL. I think Harold Fannin Jr. is on his way. Not as immediate for him, but you don't catch 117 balls in college football in a single season if you're not a talented receiver. So, and then even into day 3, Terrence Ferguson from Oregon's a really good player. It's a position that will stretch, and as much as I like Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, it's kind of the reason hey, let's get our offensive tackle now. Let's get our defensive lineman now, and we can wait on tight end because we know the caliber of player that'll be there for us rounds 2, 3, and 4.
How do you get the birthdays? That's because that's always my. Yeah. You Google how old is somebody and it's never right or it's never accurate. That's my number one question about
talk to the player. I talk to the player go straight to the horse's mouth and say, hey, 23 in August, right? 22nd? Yep. Okay. Perfect. Boom. Because that's you would think it'd be more or easier. A lot of schools 100%. Make it easy on you, because they have them and you can trust those. But, I've learned over the years Google is not the most reliable when it comes to the birth dates for the prospects.
100%.
Hilarious. Well, Tim, we'll let you get back to the beast. I'm sure you got work to do. Thanks so much for sitting down with us.
Anytime. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.